Bishop Rickel. I'm here at Church of the Ascension in Seattle. As you are aware, if you're watching this, the Lenten book was Now You See It. It's not an expressly religious book, but I picked it for a reason. The whole idea of relearning and how we don't see a lot of things that are right in front of us. My hope was that we then took some specific look at the issue of racism. And Church of the Ascension and this group that's in front of me now especially has taken up that task in a great way. And so I've asked them, why was this conversation intriguing to you?
The recent events in the news, Ferguson, which is only one amongst many, left me really angry to feel like I was on the wrong team. And so I looked forward to the dialogue and the book.
I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, and have had many experiences that I didn't pay attention to at the time of being in a white world.
How can we be reconcilers? What can we do in our own community, at a national level? Who's leading? Who's stepping up and reaching out a hand and saying, how can we be part of this?
There is no leadership today. I don't see anybody really speaking out. And in the 60s, we had a lot of leaders.
The scary thing about this is that it's so under the radar.
System.
You know, that's a gorilla for us from the Cathy N Davidson book, just walking right in front of us, but we don't see it. One of the problems I see with Seattle and the Northwest is this idea that it's all worked out here. That idea that this is all okay here, but somewhere else there's a problem. And that's kind of what we all are dealing with between the 60s and now. You know, we can make laws that make it right, but that doesn't mean our hearts have changed.
We do need to work on our own stuff. The internal focus needs to have that outward manifestation. And for people of faith, that's the deal, right?
People, it's easy to just kind of disregard it, you know, and say, well, I don't know what they're marching about, but things seem fine to me. For us, I think the church is very, very important that we not leave this behind. Marilyn asked you to think about biblical themes or biblical passages that connect.
Well, one of the themes I kept thinking about in the Bible was welcoming the stranger. And then I realized, much like what Anne was saying, well, maybe I'm the stranger.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and I realized, oh, well, there's my racism right there coming out. But I think the main thing for me that I keep thinking about is Jesus coming to reconcile us in relationship with God. And that's our job, is to be in reconciliation with other people and reconciling other people to God. And that as Christians, how can we sit back and not be part of this?
We're talking about Mark, you know, reading the passages of Mark, and how the disciples were arguing with him and were not in line. And it's very interesting to me to see all of that. You know, it wasn't smooth running like a stream.
Jesus stepped into situations that were kind of tricky.
That whole area where he asks, you know what, do I have to go through this? Yes, we have to go through it.
You know, anytime you have a tough discussion, you have to put it somewhere between violence and discomfort if you're going to get anything out of it. What are some things that have made you uncomfortable? Maybe another way to think of it is, what are things you've actually been pushed to saying, I need to confess of these things myself?
I went to Eastern Washington last year. I experienced some fear because they were all Latinos and Mexicans and so on. And I wasn't aware of it at the time, but in reading this book, became, oh my God, I acted like everybody else.
Yeah, I did the same thing in Washington, D.C. We were sitting at a bus stop, and this young black man sat at the corner, and my immediate thought was, I need to hold my purse closer. And then in reading the book, it's teaching me that I have been more or less trained to think that way.
One easy way out, I call them exits. You know, we take exits so we don't have to stay on the road. You know, one exit is, you know, kind of this idea that racism is something you do. It's not something you are.
In the course of reading this book, I'm more aware of the racism that's within the culture within which I live and participate. You know, I'm still wearing the team jersey, and I should be more proactive, and I think my faith is requiring that I do that.
I chose, when we moved here 25 years ago, to move into a white ghetto, a community that actually redlined. And so my confession is that I have committed the sin of indifference in the face of evil, which is worse than evil itself.
Yeah, because I think one way we're going to lead on this is by listening, truly listening to the people who have suffered at the hands of a church that says it's welcoming but it's not, or a society that says it's welcoming but it's not.
And we get complacent by looking at the affluent black people and the affluent brown people. And so we really kind of, we've made so much progress. I mean, this book has really shown how we have not made progress.
Often we get to a point, we say, what can we actually do to affect systemic change? There's no one fix, but we can act creatively and move into learning how to listen, how to partner with in ways that do make a difference.
Yeah, and we can confess and model for others around us when we know we do it ourselves. Well, I want to thank all of you for taking up the book. I'd also invite people that might see this to enter into the conversation. It's not too late. If you have things that are uncomfortable or questions you have or challenges you want to offer, I hope you'll enter in, because that's the way we're going to grow and we're going to learn.